Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode, a very special twice-in-a-week episode of American Soccer Junkies. Your home for all the greatest conversation about the national soccer team for the United States of America, home of where the Buffalo roam free. Here with my good friend Steve Fogarty, I'm Dan Popko, and
we made sure that Dan is not hanging out with Phil Jackson doing some peyote with that Buffalo reference. But yeah, check out the grades on the blog for the USA Honduras game.
It was slightly more tempered in our adoration than following Panama, but we'll get into that in a moment because we have a lot to talk about today. We have talking to review that game against Honduras, talk about the hex standings going into the summer, and of course what everyone's been waiting for, the U20 World Cup kicking off. U.S. kicking off tomorrow in Turkey, so that's exciting. We also have while we're recording this, we have Tahiti and Spain on the background. So if you hear us scream, it probably means Tahiti scored. So anyway, let's get started. Let's talk about that game against Honduras. What are your opening thoughts on that, Fogarty?
It was a tale of two halves. The first half was just sloppy. It was boring. Everybody seemed a little bit flat, and then in the second half, we basically came out and took it to them, and it was only a matter of time before we got the goal that would seal the 1-0 victory, taking them out, and top of the hex, and now very little to do just to qualify for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, at some point, I think everyone was kind of hoping that following that game against Panama, that it would kind of be building on that and continue to get better. But at some point, you just have to be excited to take the points where you can get them.
Yeah, I agree. And we probably, out of the Panama, Jamaica, and Honduras games, we probably had to go up against the best defender in Izaguirre, who shut down the right-hand side for the entire game. Probably went up against the best midfielder in Roger Espinoza, who was the best player on the pitch in the first half.
Yep.
And the game, I think, really changed when Carlo Costley pulled up lame and had to go out injured because Honduras had no attacking option after that. And at that point, it seemed like a draw was a certainty as a worst-case scenario.
Yep.
And we really took it to him after Costley went out. And thank you, Jerry Bankston, for just disappearing.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure you tweeted that during the game, because if he had been there, he was the one who scored that late goal in the first game against Honduras, and gave them the win, surprise victory. So having him not available made a world of difference.
Yeah, he had been scoring goals consistently just about every other game. And without him and then without Costley, you had Honduras players with a combined 6 career goals as a forward, and Espinoza no longer had somebody to link up with. Mm-hmm. He could do, all the fancy dribbling tricks in the world, but it wasn't taking him anywhere. And Wilson Palacios isn't really an offensive player, so it then just became, let's patiently break these guys down. And after missed opportunity, we finally got the Josie Altidore goal, his fourth in his last 4 games.
When you're talking about the attacking threat for Honduras, one thought I'd like to add to that is, for a while, Espinoza was the best player, but also looking incredibly dangerous on the other side was Andy Najar, former DC United whiz kid, now I believe in Spain. I mean, not Spain, sorry, in Belgium. Spanish games up on the TV in Belgium. But there was a period of time where people were thinking that he might decide to play for the United States instead of Honduras. And here he comes, and he's looking incredibly dangerous. He is the only person to really test Tim Howard, although that was mostly Omar Gonzalez's lapse. So Honduras, I'm glad that we didn't catch a full squad against them, because I'm afraid, like, the way that first half was going, that was the kind of game where they could have nicked a goal, and it could have been a very, very dangerous time for the U.S.
Yeah, they're a very tough team to play. They just grind out 90-minute games. They make it an absolute crusade. even against Jamaica, it would have just been a 1-0 victory, except for, Jamaica just screwed up at the end and gave them a cheap second goal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they play everybody the same, and they don't switch their philosophy. If you watch them in the World Cup in 2010, all three of their games were incredibly boring. But you basically just have to stay the course against these guys because they were diving all over the place. And, they made the first half, it was so sloppy, it was exactly what Honduras wanted. And it was really exasperating coming off how well we played against Panama.
Yeah, it was frustrating. It was just, it was very boring. Yeah, kind of. I remember anytime I tell my girlfriend that I'm watching soccer and it's a 0-0 game, it's pretty derisive the looks I get. But that was a particularly just not there wasn't much happening. It was just you could see the U.S. As I wrote in the grades, you could see the U.S. at the beginning of the game. It was that they had a period where they were passing around. They were trying to feel out the Honduran defense, see where the holes were, see where they could break through. And then slowly that turned from that early first 20 minutes or so when you're used to seeing that kind of play to it just kind of kept going. And it kept just kind of grinding along and being this tedious game, which is what Honduras wanted.
Yeah, and Jermaine Jones eventually got impatient and started reverting back to the bad Jermaine Jones that we had been talking about earlier, making long passes that had no chance of being successful. Omar Gonzalez was asleep essentially the entire first half. There was one moment, I think it was Evans rolled it back to him and it just went through Gonzalez's legs. Like, that's not the body language you want to see at that point.
Yeah.
Abby Johnson couldn't get forward after the first 10 minutes of the game. And it was really, really sloppy. And Honduras went into halftime feeling really, really good about themselves.
Yeah, and it just kind of had this lolling, listless kind of feel to it. It was a very hot game. One thing I believe they mentioned on the broadcast, it was actually warmer at kickoff in Utah than it was in San Pedro Sula when we went down to Honduras. And you could see, it wasn't quite as bad as the game in D.C., where it's just kind of very tired legs. But the crowd wasn't as into it. Obviously you're not going to live up to that Seattle, the crowd that we put out for Panama and Seattle, but it was just a very lackluster performance all around for much of the game.
Yeah, I think the Utah fans are going to get a Gold Cup match coming up in a couple weeks, and I think that might be the future of them with the U.S. men's national team. That or, a cheap friendly here or there, but it wasn't a World Cup qualifying crowd.
No,
it was only 20,500 people there, which is probably the smallest crowd we'll play in front of throughout the entire hexagonal. Mm-hmm. And it was weird watching a World Cup qualifier where you could see the cars in the parking lot behind the net.
Yeah.
And after the first 5 minutes, the crowd was dead. So I think Utah may have gotten their opportunity and they didn't really run with it. And I don't really want to see any more World Cup qualifiers there.
No, I think even part of the reason the game was even put there is because the stadium is nice. It's a good pitch. It's a soccer-specific stadium. But I think as more and more soccer-specific stadiums are built around the country in better markets, it'll knock Utah out of that running.
Yeah, and we talked about possibly putting Honduras there just because the last time we faced them was in a big city, and the Honduran fans travel well.
Yeah.
And they had a solid amount of fans in the stands, but their presence wasn't really felt like it was felt in Chicago and leading up to the 2010 World Cup. So Utah definitely didn't, break into the Columbus, DC, KC, and Seattle, I guess, Mount Rushmore of U.S. soccer stadiums.
Yeah. I think if Panama doesn't travel near as well as Honduras, I think if you put Honduras maybe up in Seattle or something, then that leaves you can put a game in DC or something for Panama. But we'll see what happens. We have a few more years before we really start worrying about that. next maybe the next Gold Cup in 2 years' time. It's an important one again. I mean, granted, now they're all important, but another one that we actually sent our A team to. Now, talking more about the some of the individual performances for the United States in that game. Who was your man of the match for that?
There were. I put on Twitter after you put the grades up on the blog that it was a very hard match to grade.
Yeah, it was.
Because of the difference in the two halves, and do you grade it based on the really good run of play that we had in the second half or the really bad play that we had in the first half?
Yeah,
I think the most consistent player, and I'm not going to say that he's my man of the match, but he was the most consistent player, was Matt Beasler in this game.
Mm-hmm.
He had one really bad giveaway, and then after that he shut down the Honduras attack. Costa's injury helped him out, but he was the one that was really taking charge of the headers on crosses that came into the box. He was the one making that key tackle. And it was really between him and Graham Zusi's second half for me. I can't really pick, but I just think Beasler was better in the first half.
Yeah, I think as you said, it was a very tough match to grade. I mean, no one else can really see this. They just kind of see what we put out as our end result. But there was so much more disparity between. I mean, we had similar trends in our voting. It wasn't anything where someone got an 8 and someone got a 4, and they ended up at a 6. But there was usually we're probably within a point at most, maybe like usually around half a point, and it kind of we have to just take the average, or I'll bump up or bump down my grade just to make it so we don't end up on quarter grades. But in this game, there was a couple different ones to see. Tim Howard there was a 2-point disparity between us. Brad Evans was the same. Omar Gonzalez, we were within a point. Beasler, we both graded the same. Johnson, there was a point difference. Bradley, there was a point difference. Jones, there was a point difference, I guess. Kind of worked out in the middle, whatever. Even Zusi, I graded a 7, you graded an 8, and I agree, he was probably one of the best players. He kind of fell out in the first half. I think I gave, and the rest of it were fairly consistent. But I think the difference for the two best players for me were Zusi and Fabian Johnson, the two wingers. And for considering how long we've been, I guess Johnson was playing at left back, but he was still offensively. He was attacking like he was like a winger a lot of the time. And I think one of the big things is we were always saying how the U.S. Jürgen Klinsmann was constantly worried we didn't have enough depth on the wings, and those two players have been our two best players.
Yeah, I agree. I have my grades now in front of me, and I think the reason I graded Zusi an 8 is because even in the first half, when nothing was really getting generated, his set-piece plays, his corner kicks were really the only offense that was being generated, and I think I bumped him up for that. And then I think I took a little bit away from Fabian Johnson for that awful challenge in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Where he was lucky not to get a yellow card. And because FIFA's really trying to do away with the studs up tackle, and he was late, I thought that could have been a red with the way it looked. It looked a lot worse on the instant replay. And I think that maybe that stuck with me throughout the game. But, yeah, Fabian Johnson, other than that, was really, really good in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the first half, he was the only one consistently generating anything for the United States along that left side. And he was getting up in the attack. Even Brad Evans was getting up on the right-hand side. So I think that wing play was much better. Has been much better in this round than it has been in the past.
Yeah, and this was with Eddie Johnson not having a great performance.
No, not at all.
And his passing is always going to leave a lot to be desired. But he found himself with a couple of opportunities where you expect Eddie Johnson to finish, but he always looked like he was a little off just with the way his positioning was. And it it was really bad in the first half. Izagirre took him out for the most part, and he never really got into the flow. And that being coupled with a sloppy performance from Jermaine Jones, who obviously was rusty.
That was his worst game in a while for the U.S.
Yeah, it just really, hurt the flow, combined with what Honduras was doing, falling all over the place, making the game a crusade. And I think now that we made a mistake when we said that Jones should be playing in this game, because he looked like somebody who hadn't played in a week and a half and probably hadn't even gotten that much training in. So maybe it would have been wiser to have Jeff Cameron in next to Bradley in this game.
Yeah, and one thing I touched on it when I was writing the grades, but I have to give credit where credit was due. Is something I read from Levu Bird for American Soccer Now. He did a great breakdown of the tactical side of that game, and one of the things he talked about a lot was with Jones and Bradley. There seems to be this sense of confusion. Yeah, like at times they play great together, they're both very capable of making those runs forward into the attack. But when Jeff Cameron was more willing to sit back and distribute from further back up the field and let Michael Bradley take on that more aggressive role of the true number 6, as opposed to playing more higher up the pitch in like an attacking role.
Yeah, and that was what we said on the first episode we ever did of American Soccer Junkies, was the confusion between Bradley and Jones, and it seemed to have subsided beginning in the Germany game and going all the way through his injury against Jamaica. But I really think they might have to try playing all three of them together, where you move Bradley up, you put Jones and Cameron next to each other, because Cameron seems more willing, as you said, to sit back. Jones, we like to think of him as that midfield destroyer, but he can go forward, and he's made some really world-class passes in the past to really help us out. So I think Klinsmann's really going to have to experiment with trying to get all three on the field, because Cameron was great against Panama, and he was good again in his, I guess, half-hour, maybe a little bit less appearance that he had against Honduras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'd have to be kind of almost a triangle in the midfield, and that's something that I guess at times it's tried, but Dempsey is given such more freedom to roam up higher up the pitch that it's more the formation is more a 4-2-3-1. That would be more 4-3-2-1.
Yeah, and you'd lose either Fabian Johnson or Graham Zusi or Landon Donovan when he comes back into the side, which we inevitably think he will.
Yeah.
And I really want to see Fabian Johnson stay on this team. He's played 2 great games in a row, and Dempsey could play the wing, but do you want Dempsey on the wing, or do you want Dempsey in the center of the pitch? It's a lot of questions that need to be answered, but they're good questions. It's quality players all around now.
Yeah, it's the kind of questions you don't mind having to ask every once in a while. Sorry, yeah, we both had a pause there because Tahiti just had a corner, and it almost looked like it had a chance from this angle. America. But another thought I have from that Honduras game is just what a difference Josie Altidore starting to get on the score sheet has made. Because that was the kind of finish. It wasn't the hardest finish in the world, but it also wasn't. It was with his weaker left foot. It had to be put in the right spot, and it's the kind of thing that you've seen him kind of scuff in other recent performances before he went on this 4 goals in 4 games, which tied for the longest goal scoring streak in U.S. national team history. And I think now that he's in the best form of his life for the U.S. it makes life a lot easier for everyone else, as we said last time.
Just to add on that, Josie really didn't do much in the first half. Honduras did a really good job of taking him out of the game. And in past games, there's a really good chance that Klinsmann would have taken him out at around the 50-minute mark. But it shows now that Klinsmann has more confidence in Altidore. And yeah, I really agree with your point on his now really, really incredible finishing, because of all the chances the U.S. got between Dempsey's headers, Brad Evans had one, Eddie had one. Now the difficult plays are the ones that Josie Altidore is finishing. And it's getting to the point now where we might have to start expecting, a multi-goal game coming up here very soon. Obviously not very soon in terms of time, because he's not going to be playing for the side for a while. But he looks like he's ready to make the leap into like that elite striker category.
Yeah. I think going forward this summer, something to think about is he's most likely gonna be moving on. He needs to move somewhere where he continues to get reps and get in situations where he can be scoring goals. I mean, I'd personally be okay with him staying with AZ through the World Cup and then let him make his payday after the World Cup. He's still young. He still can be in one of those in a smaller league and make it and move up moving forward.
Even if he were to move up, he went from AZ not wanting to have him even participate in this May camp that turned into June qualifiers to I really want to know what he's done for his price tag the last 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
because if teams start paying big money for him, money always helps you get into the starting lineup. If you're now the new $6 million man, I don't know how much he's going to command because it's all arbitrary. How much is a team willing to pay for him?
Yeah,
but
I could see him breaking into the 10 million area.
Yeah, his youth obviously helps, but it's really interesting. He needs to get his season will most likely be starting up again in August, which means he'll be ready to go for the next set of qualifiers in September. And it's a shame that he can't keep playing now because you don't want anything to really interrupt this run of form that he's had.
No. Can we keep him through the Gold Cup?
Well, we might as well. If the way Chris Wondolowski plays for the national team.
Yeah. We'll have plenty of time to get in the Gold Cup in the next couple of weeks. But there's a couple of young strikers in there that it'd be nice to see. Jack McInerney, for example.
Bobby Wood.
Any other performances you want to highlight from?
Brad Evans played his best game since the Germany rep game, but even watching the way he played in this game, it's making the Germany game seem more and more like an outlier.
Yeah.
In how well he played there, and that's not the form that I think we're accustomed to seeing. And he's fine as deputizing it right back, but I really think Timmy Chandler, this is now his job to lose, because Brad Evans, great goal against Jamaica, but he's not the permanent answer at right back. I think we learned that in these 3 games, even though he played well in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was his best game. As you said, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough to make up for the kind of what's been lacking in the last 2 games. I think Timmy Chandler, when he needs to come back. I'm hoping he plays against Bosnia in that friendly and Bosnia and Herzegovina. In that friendly over the summer. Also, Steve Cherundolo. I think that he's getting up there in age, and he earned the right through his long career to ask for the summer off, I guess. But I think if he still has something to give and can still play a role, I think that'd be huge. Because you look at some of the other options that we've heard about for right back in this team over the years, the Jonathan Spector, who's now a central midfielder in the championship, Eric Lehigh, who got some run for Aston Villa, but he's been let go so far for the
he's signed with Nottingham Forest.
Okay, well, so he'll still be playing in the championship. I haven't seen that yet, so I think, there's guys out there. I think, as you said, it is Timmy Chandler's to lose. and maybe Steve Trundle can come in. But it's I don't think it should be Brad Evans taking us into the World Cup.
No, I like having Evans around on the squad for the World Cup, but I don't really want him on the field starting the game. And the thing with Cherundolo that they have to be very, very cautious with is that players age very quickly. You've seen it with Mexico's central defense these last few weeks. And if Cherundolo can still go, great. But if he's even a step slow, you've got to get Timmy Chandler in there because although Cherundolo is a consummate professional, you're going to be going up against more athletic players, assuming we qualify for the World Cup, which is all but a foregone conclusion at this moment. Any other individual performances you'd like to get into?
Nothing specific. Let's see. I mean, Tim Howard. He controlled his area well. He made the save he had to. It wasn't his hardest fought clean sheet, but again, that's that's 4 in the last 5, right? Am I? No,
it's 2 in a row.
2 in a row. Well, in the last 5 qualifiers, I mean, and 2 of those were Guzan, so never mind. It's 2 in a row though. Michael Bradley played well. Played well. It was. If you look around at any other places that grade games, and I don't suggest you do, I suggest you stick with us because we always know best. They start to read like a broken record every game about what they do, about what Michael Bradley's done. He comes in every game. He passes well. He controls the midfield. He just runs things. He's the heartbeat of this team.
Yeah. Only blemish on him is I can't believe he missed that shot in the second half.
No,
wide open net and he sailed it. That's not a Michael Bradley play.
No, that was the one real moment of that game before Altidore scored. Watching it, that you started to get really excited and start jumping up that was off the header by Dempsey too, wasn't it? Earlier in that play.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just 2 moments that you thought for sure the U.S. was going to score. It was tough.
One other point, I think it's really weird that in these 5 games, Joe Corona only got 3 minutes of playing time.
Yeah,
and that's further emphasized by the fact that Brad Davis, sorry, getting my Brads mixed up, was the first Brad off the bench. First winger off the bench with Eddie Johnson in the starting lineup. And Brad Davis played well in this game, but he doesn't do anything special. He's got that rocket left foot that still hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
But I really would have liked to see Joe Corona, a player who's been getting consistent time in Mexico with Tijuana, get a chance to show what he can do, especially in this game where you knew Honduras wasn't going to score at the end. They didn't have any options other than Espinoza, who wasn't getting any service at all. So it's weird because I've seen Brad Davis play enough now where I know what he can do.
Yep.
Joe Corona is still an enigma to me. He could come in and be the next great winger, and he better get time in the Gold Cup. I tweeted this because you're really wasting this young kid's time right now.
Yeah. I think it should be assumed that he should be starting. He should start and get most of the minutes for that Gold Cup team. I don't know what side. I don't know if they're going to put him on the wing or if they're going to maybe try him out in the Dempsey role. I know he's played there some for his club, but he looks like he'll be getting. He should get a lot of time, as you said. On the Brad Davis front, I think he's the new Graham Zusi in the mindset of we know what he's bringing. Because now Zusi stepped his game up to a different level. He's been playing great. So now Brad Davis is that guy that, all right, we're fine with him being on the squad. We're fine with him coming off the bench and stepping in. But we know what he's going to offer. He's not going to give us anything particularly great. I know as you've been saying, your belief was in Taylor Twellman that Brad Davis would one day help win one of these qualifiers with his left foot. And when they're saying he was warming up, and this was maybe a minute or two before Altidore's goal, because he came in like a minute later, he was warming up, and I'm like, this is going to be the game, isn't it? He's gonna come in and he's gonna win this game. But then it happened, and he kind of he won a good foul, but he didn't do too much.
No, he got forward. It was better than his previous appearances where he basically didn't touch the ball, which I have no problem with, but he basically took up space. His rating was helped by the fact that he was better than Eddie Johnson, who played his worst game in a long time.
Yep.
So, and then Edgar Castillo, who I really thought Edgar Castillo was going to get a lot of playing time in this one. This one seemed set up perfectly, especially with Fabian Johnson already being on a yellow card going in. Plus, Zusi doesn't go the distance very often. I wasn't confident in Eddie Johnson in this game, but Edgar Castillo got the thanks for showing up little 5-minute appearance at the end and really never got a chance to do anything.
Yeah, he got the Stuart Holden treatment.
Yeah, but Stuart Holden gets it out of respect. Edgar Castillo doesn't.
Exactly. It almost seemed disrespectful. But Castillo's another guy. Maybe he'll stick around for the Gold Cup. Maybe he can put a stamp on it, because that defense, as we said, is looking a little iffy for that Gold Cup team. Not too many guys that can come in and do things, except for the guys that are already in this camp.
Yeah, and I want to see Gonzalez and Beasler keep playing together.
Yeah.
I don't know if Beasler is the long-term answer at central defense, but he's been much better in the qualifiers than he was in the friendlies. And I think that pair needs to get continuity with one another.
Yeah, if Klinsmann is intending to stick with those two going forward through the World Cup, they need to get more playing time. I agree. They need to see more time together. If he's still searching, maybe saying, "Or maybe this isn't the answer," then maybe try some things out. But if it's really what Klinsmann thinks is the answer.
Yeah, it's his decision, and he's playing Beasler over Cameron, who Cameron's a more talented player.
Yeah. No
doubt, but Klinsmann seems to have this affection for Beasler, and I like Beasler. He's got this fire about him that he's so happy to be there, playing for the country, and he's performed well. But once again, there's a difference in class between Jamaica, Panama, Honduras, all three of whom looking right now like they're not going to the World Cup, and then playing in the World Cup, where it's essentially a pretty good representation of the 32 best teams in the world.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm really hoping that friendly that comes up against Bosnia over the summer. I hope that we call in a very, very like the top lineup, and don't use it as a chance to vet some more guys. I'm okay with maybe including a couple Gold Cup standouts to see how they fit in with the first team guys. But I think that's the kind of game where you just see how you perform against Bosnia, who they themselves, I believe, they look like they're on pace. Let me just check. I have the World Cup stats up. Yeah, they're leading a group in UEFA, 3 points over Greece, and they're almost guaranteed to at least go to the playoffs. They have a 7-point lead over Slovakia who sits in third place in their group. So they'll probably be a World Cup side, and I think seeing how we perform against them, it would be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, they're right now on their best run that they've ever been on, and they have quality players all around. Obviously, Edin Dzeko, the big star, but they match up well with us. They're not as good as Belgium is, and they're probably not as athletic as Belgium is, but they're like us. They're a mix of veterans and kids, and we have our star Dempsey. They have their star Dzeko, and it's a pretty even battle, I think. And it will be a good friendly, I think. I think it's going to be a close game.
Yep. I hope you enjoy our 2-month advance preview on Bosnia and Herzegovina.
One more thing with that, just because I don't want to piss on your parade because you said you really wanted a top squad. I saw on Twitter earlier, and I forgot who posted it, and I didn't find this out myself. I'm just going to throw it out there. The Premier League season starts 3 days afterwards, so you might not get Dempsey, you might not get Cameron.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure if it's an official FIFA friendly date. That determines a lot. But yeah, I could see us, like, you don't want to take out a guy that you want to get playing time 3 days before in the run up to his first game of the season. It just doesn't. it could be a strange mismatched squad of guys looking to break back in. But at the same time, that also means Bosnia won't have Eddie Dzeko, and it complicates things. But we'll
get into it more at the end of July.
Exactly. We'll worry about that in a month or so. But now, as we're talking about some World Cup qualification stuff, let's take a quick look at the hex as it stands right now. U.S. currently sitting. Every team has played 6 games. It was a little bit lopsided going to the last game because Mexico had to get a game out early because they're leaving they're in the Confederations Cup. But the U.S. We're currently sitting first with 4 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. Tied for the lead in goals for and the second status defense, 3 goals against. Costa Rica with the same amount of goals for, goals against, but they drew an additional game instead of a win, so they're on 11 points. Mexico 5 points back of us, sitting third, still in the official qualification spot, unfortunately. Mexico, known for their 0-0 draws, 5 draws, 3 goals scored, 2 goals against in 6 games, and they have yet to win at Azteca.
They haven't scored at Azteca.
They haven't scored at Azteca this round, which is frankly amazing. But at the same time, Honduras sits at 7. But they have to make 2 goals goal differential against Mexico. Panama sits on 6 points, and Jamaica, thanks for playing. They're at 2 points from 2 draws. Now, of course, this could change quickly. Next round of qualifiers could see Mexico vault from that, where we're really hoping that they're going to have to travel to New Zealand before they can make the World Cup. To where they might be in, because right now U.S. seems pretty much assured. We have to travel to Costa Rica next time, but even if we were to drop that and drop into second place, and Honduras were to, it would take a lot. We still have a 4-point cushion before we're in that nebulous region where we're not quite qualified and have to go to the next round of the playoffs.
Yeah, we have 2 full wins on that problem, and it doesn't matter if you win the hex or if you come in third in the hex right now.
No.
And we still have a home game with Jamaica, which is a game that 99.9% of the time we're going to win. And then the big one is the September 10th qualifier in Columbus against Mexico, a place with all the history.
I'm so excited.
Could you imagine another Dos a 0 to really screw Mexico up?
And have us clinch?
There's I think a coaching change might be imminent right now. The way they've been playing, they can't score.
No, I am giddy with anticipation of a game that doesn't happen until September. I'm already imagining my spot at the Banshee for that.
I think I got the Michael Bradley jersey right now hanging in the closet, just waiting. I don't think I'm going to put it on until that game. Maybe for the Gold Cup final if I get a little giddy for that, but we'll see.
I might have to invest in New Jersey. I might wait till the next round of kits come out, because right now I'm still rocking my Charlie Davies from the 2000 from the in between World Cup jerseys, the white with the thin stripes.
Those were nice jerseys, though.
They were.
Yeah. I wish they'd go back to wearing the hoops. I'm an idiot. They've played 1 game in the hoops since I bought the jersey.
Yeah, I kind of like that. That was a huge announcement, and I enjoy those jerseys. But alas, it's not about what they're wearing. It's about the winning. But as of right now, it looks like us in Costa Rica look fairly safe. It would take something drastic happening to Costa Rica. They would have to lose. They'd have to lose to us in San Jose and drop the away game to Jamaica to really start getting nervous.
Yeah, and I think Jamaica's just all about beating.
Yeah. So, what were you saying? Sorry.
No, they might have been overhyped a little bit going into this.
Yep.
We helped them out with the loss in the third round of qualifying, but yeah, they're done. It's really the most compelling thing in the Hex right now is 3 teams for one spot with Mexico, Honduras, and Panama. And Panama right now seems to be going down.
Yeah, they seem to be going the wrong direction. They started off with 2 draws, then pulled off the win against Honduras, and the 0-0 draw against Mexico. So they were undefeated in their first 4. But that 2-0 loss to Costa Rica doesn't really help things. And the 2-0 that they've dropped their last two games, and they didn't look particularly great in either one of them.
No, I think the way it's set up, Honduras should be booking their flight to Wellington.
I think the biggest game in the next round for me is, well, I mean, aside from US and Mexico, which is always big, the biggest non-US game for me is going to be that Honduras-Panama game. I think that it's in Honduras. I think the winner of that has a better chance of at least getting that 4th spot. But the loser of that's going to be some serious trouble. Yeah,
and you never know. The way Mexico's playing at home, that game in Azteca against Honduras on the 6th of September is looking awfully large.
Yeah. It should be interesting. I'm hoping to see Mexico, New Zealand, but
that'd be great.
A man can dream, can he?
Yeah, we'll get into that obviously more as the Hex comes calling again. Probably.
You can listen to us talk about the U20 World Cup.
How exciting is this?
The U20 World Cup after missing out last time around. Of course, all this hope of death with Spain, France, and every American fan's favorite team to face, Ghana.
We can't get away from those bastards.
No, we can't. Now, the thing that's really interesting, I actually find interesting about this U.S. team, is that Klinsmann came in 2 years ago, completely overhauled the youth development, but it was really everyone thought the impact was going to be felt at the U17 level. They have a bunch of talented players. Junior Flores is the most well known of those guys, but that team failed to make the U17 World Cup, and this U20 team, who was kind of stuck in that in between where it was after all the hype about the Bradenton Academy, people started realizing, all right, maybe this isn't the greatest system, and before it was kind of the in between squad. They go through, they struggled early in their cycle in the 2012, and then they come through and they clean up in CONCACAF to qualify before falling to Mexico in extra time. And they really, there's no players that you're saying are can't miss prospects, but they play well as a team. And I think if they can pull off, I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say they should qualify, they should make the knockout rounds of this World Cup. But if they can pull off a good hard fought draw against Spain and or France, maybe get a win against Ghana, it could happen, you know?
Yeah, and the thing to realize with this is that these are the guys who, after this World Cup cycle ends, are going to be the guys who are looking to break in for the next World Cup cycle.
Yep.
So even if you don't pay attention now, in 2 years, Luis Gill and Benji Hoyer are going to be guys that they're going to be the new blood that's going to be trying to break into this squad. Yeah. And what I really like what Tab Ramos has done is he's really gotten a huge Latin influence over this team. And the battle for prospects between Mexico and the U.S. is probably as intense as it's ever been, and we're winning a lot of those battles.
Yep. Let's see. We have in the team that actually made made it for the World Cup. We have 4 players based in Mexico, in addition to a bunch of guys that have featured throughout the cycle that have been talented, like Alejandro Guido, who didn't make the squad, plays for Tijuana. He's the main guy I can think of. But there is that influence. It wouldn't be a modern day U.S. squad if there weren't a couple German-based players. We have Mario Rodriguez and Caleb Stanko both playing for German teams. It's a very diverse group of players, and it doesn't always seem like it should work, but it works so far.
Yeah, and it's going to be, I think, up to DeAndre Yedlin is going to have to take a big role in this team.
Yeah.
Luis Gill, who's been who's 19 years old and has been playing forever for Real Salt Lake. The MLS guys who are getting consistent playing time,
Yep.
I think are really going to have to guide these kids along because, there are college kids on this squad. You're going to be starting Eric Miller, a defender from Creighton University, in their first game. It's a long way from the Missouri Valley Conference to the Under-20 World Cup.
It is a long way. Yeah, I think he's the only college player that's going to really be seeing a lot. There's a couple, two backup keepers are both college kids.
Avantori from UCLA, he probably won't see much time.
Yeah, he could get in a game, but it's unlikely. Yeah, because you look at this, another guy he's been getting minutes for the Colorado Rapids is Shane O'Neill, and he was supposed to be the rock in the center of defense for this team. And he's suspended because of a red card in the CONCACAF final, and he's out for the game against Spain, which does not bode well because starting Caleb Stanko, who really is better fit as a defensive midfielder, and Eric Miller, who's a right back. Thank God, DeAndre Yedlin's in because he wasn't in for the CONCACAF tournament. He was playing with the Sounders preseason.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because France and Spain have such great quality, and then Ghana's a wild card team. I couldn't tell you anything about anybody on their squad, but the Spanish team are guys who are going to be starring for a long time.
Yep.
France has Paul Pogba, who we were talking off Skype, absolute freak for Juventus. My brother's a huge Juventus fan. He was going on and on about how much he loves Paul Pogba, so look out for him. It's going to be interesting. We're going to have to really grind out results, and I think it's the way the U.S. plays. And there is a shot. We're an underdog, but
yeah, if there's when you get into some of the youth tournaments, there is always that chance. Like Ghana won in 2009; they won the entire thing. But you look at this Spain team who we're playing tomorrow or Friday at 2. Wow. Let's see, guys. Suso, who plays for Liverpool. Francesco Alciar, who plays for Getafe. He plays Jesse Rodriguez, known just as Jesse. Plays for Real Madrid Castilla. I think he might have even gotten some first team minutes.
Jose Campagna for Sevilla.
Yeah, it's just players that are Gerard Deulofeu, the Barcelona guy, who he was a player of the tournament in the UEFA U20 in Estonia last year. It's Dennis Suarez from Manchester City. They are stacked, and if the U.S. can hold in, I think the biggest worry is the U.S. has the offense that they can. They have a lot of the U.S. team's strength is their offensive talent. Luis Gil is great at orchestrating. Benji Hoya is very versatile. He can get a lot done. Mario Rodriguez, Daniel Cuevas, Jose Villarreal all present options up front. Villarreal is probably the most talented of those players. Rodriguez is a great player. He hasn't exactly done it ever. He wasn't as good as he could be in that CONCACAF tournament. And then you have Alonso Hernandez, who is a complete wild card. He wasn't even on Tab Ramos's radar a couple months ago, and then he broke into Monterrey's first team, got called up, and scored a goal against Portugal in a friendly before this tournament. So it's going to be if that makeshift defense can hold up, and the guys in front, Mikey Lopez and Will Trapp, They're both talented players, so it's really about if they can stymie some attacks and then the defense can hold strong, and maybe we can nick one or two. That's the hope.
Yeah, and the other thing that's important to note is that you can really make your star in these World Cups. A lot of these guys, the casual American fan doesn't know. We ourselves had to go through some of these players because we really didn't know much about them, and you can really open a lot of eyes, and Benji Hoy hasn't exactly made himself a player who's been in the Santos Laguna side consistently. He might be able to do that. Once you break into that side, if you can stick there, then you really have a good, solid future for this U.S. national team. Mm-hmm. And it's all about building up, confidence for these guys. If these guys can win a game, get a draw, play well, don't get embarrassed like, Tahiti has been in the Confederations Cup as they give up 4 goals before the end of the first half.
Yeah, 5. Oh, 5, one in the second.
No, 5. Well, David Villa just scored like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. It's a nice mix of MLS veterans and kids looking to prove themselves. And it's compelling television. We really enjoyed it the last time they played it, where we were in it at least.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest stories about this team right now, though, is there's some talent there, but some of the guys that aren't there, that were eligible and called up at different points in the cycle. John Anthony Brooks, whose chronic indecision, he's out with chronic indecision. But we also have Will Packwood, who's probably one of the most talented players in this pool of players, but he had an absolutely horrific, devastating leg injury. I believe he broke two bones. I'll have to look up exactly what it was, but he's out probably for the next 9 to 12 months rehabbing. Another player who suffered a broken leg. Mark Pelosi, who was moving up through Liverpool's youth system and was playing an age group above. I think he was getting some time with the reserves before he hurt himself. And even Walker Zimmerman is an FC Dallas defender who's been fighting a variety of injuries, and he's played twice for Dallas. He could have come in and really helped this squad. It just a lot of guys that just couldn't seem to get it together, or just had to fight off injuries. Like there is talent in the U.S. under-20 pool.
Yeah, and we did go through how it's an embarrassment of riches at forward, where guys like Omar Salgado from Vancouver Whitecaps, who's been playing for Vancouver Whitecaps, hasn't been able to get into this side.
Yeah.
But defensively, it would have been great if we had a Will Packwood playing.
Yeah, he could, because he was poised to break in to really get some minutes in for Birmingham City too. As it stands, he played 5 times in this last season, and he actually started because Jonathan Spector was out injured, but he started right back in the League Cup, and then he stayed with it into the season a little bit playing, and then I'm reading this now. He had sustained multiple fractures to his tibia and fibula. That sounds awful. Estimated time between he went down on my birthday, January 5th, and it looks like he'll be back. They added an extra to his contract, but he should be back hopefully come this time 2014. He should be playing, and maybe he can get some more minutes and work himself back into the side.
Yeah, he's one to look at because he's another one of those just big defenders who can command the air. But with this team, you play the hand you're dealt, and I have a lot of confidence in Tab Ramos managing this team. I think he'll get the most out of this team, and we'll go from there. We have a game tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do against Spain. Very talented team.
Yeah, I mean, one last thought, just on the lead up into this tournament. There was a tournament in Toulon where we called in a lot of second choice guys. Tried to see some guys. That's where Alonso Hernandez came in, and it didn't go so well. Lost 4-1 to the France team that we're going to face again. Colombia beat us 2-1. We beat Democratic Republic of the Congo, but then South Korea beat us. But then we came in with this full squad and beat a talented Portugal team 3-1 in the lead up. So you don't know what's going to happen. Just got to watch, and I'm going to keep an open mind. We'll see. We'll watch. We'll report back, because we know that playing games during the day, probably with the U20, probably not the kind of thing you're going to come home and check out the replay of. So that's what we're here for. Any other thoughts you want to add on this U20 squad before we move on to 23 for 2014, Fogarty?
Just watch the midfield. If you get a chance to watch the game, watch the midfield and how they work together, because these are the guys. Jermaine Jones is getting up there in years, and Landon Donovan's not going to be around forever. Clint Dempsey's not going to be around forever. So look out for these guys. These are the guys that will be replacing him. Benji Hoya, Louis Skill.
Yep.
Two to watch.
Yep. It's I'm a big Benji Hoya fan, and also other guy to watch. So we talked about our issues at right back on the full squad. DeAndre Yedlin. One guy we didn't really talk about, Cody Cropper. He's the goalkeeper. He's been the best goalkeeper in the cycle. He's a little bit of a crazy person. He yells and screams, a little like Tim Howard. He's something about him seems a little angrier than Tim Howard. I can't quite place it. Maybe it was the fact that after Mexico scored a goal, he stuck his leg out and tried to trip the guy who just scored on him. But
once he comes back, Shane O'Neill.
Yep.
Getting consistent time for Colorado. He's one to watch. Irish-born.
Yep. A lot of these players, even if you're watching when you watch these games, even if they're not the type of players that might break in and become stars to the U.S. team, a lot of these guys are the kind of players who will be around. They'll be the Brad Davis, the Brad Evans, those guys that kind of hang around the fringe, make the January camps, and they'll make an impact somewhere along the line. So it's definitely worth keeping track of the future of the U.S. national team.
Yeah, that's the perfect way of saying it. It's a couple of potential future stars and a bunch of guys that you use to round out a roster that can help you win a game here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So, good luck. They're going to need it.
Oh, they're definitely going to need it. Best chance is going to be that Ghana game. It might not exact all the revenge for the suffering they've caused us the last 2 World Cups, but it'll be a nice start.
Yeah, it'll be a nice start, and that's about it.
Yeah.
If we can somehow exact any form of real revenge in my lifetime against those guys, I'd be very happy. God damn it, Asamoah Gyan.
Now, it remains pretty unlikely that any of these guys will be able to break in this cycle. Maybe a couple might get in for the next cycle, but so they probably won't be making the U.S. World Cup roster now that we're as good as going. But we're here to tell you just who might. I don't know how much will really change after that after one more game, but you never know. Do you have anything changing in your mind?
I'll just recap it real fast before I give my one real strong opinion. Howard, Guzan, Raimondo, goalkeepers. That will never change ever, unless one of them breaks a leg, which hopefully none of them do. Defenders, Gonzalez, Cameron, Beasler, Chandler, Castillo, Goodson, Beasley, Evans. Right now, I'm pretty confident with that. Midfield, Bradley, Jones, Zusi, Adu, Williams, Donovan, Fabian, Johnson. I'll come back to that in a sec. Forwards, Dempsey out the door, Eddie Johnson, Gomez, Boyd. Brad Davis, who has basically been coming in and going out and coming in and going out. Jürgen Klinsmann really seems to have a fondness and a confidence in this guy. And it doesn't seem like he's really been a player that you would think that could make this World Cup, but Brad Davis is always there.
That's true.
Danny Williams, who I said in the last podcast, I'm pretty sure was on vacation. I'm pretty sure he was vacationing in like Acapulco or Cancun or something like that. I don't know how we could keep Danny Williams on this side because we haven't seen him and he hasn't been particularly good. And we already have Maurice Edu, and we have Cameron who can play the same role.
Yeah.
So it looks like a spot is opening up for Brad Davis, and he's not as talented as Sasha Kleshkin. He's probably not as talented as Joe Corona. But he always seems to find a way to get off the bench in these games.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Brad Davis possibly working his way back into the 23?
I think I agree that he is a guy that Klinsmann is constantly calling upon, and I think the most important part of what you said is that Jeff Cameron now has shown that he can play and played very, very well in that role that we were kind of saying, all right, we need Danny Williams on the squad at least because he provides that. We don't need Danny Williams anymore. He can go on vacation to Acapulco as much as he wants now. I think I maybe would prefer if it was someone other than Brad Davis, if it was one of these guys and come in and be a spark. But I don't think we can dispute that Brad Davis is the man right now.
Yeah, and listen, this could all change once Donovan comes back, because the reason, I don't want to sound hypocritical, we've had Donovan on this since the beginning, even though he hasn't played a match for the U.S. since we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Landon Donovan and Danny Williams are two different players. Landon Donovan's the most successful American soccer player that we've ever seen. Danny Williams is trying to figure out how to get back on the bench for Hoffenheim. So that last midfield position, I think, is just going to be a rotating group of guys based on who's playing particularly well. But I really think Brad Davis has a stranglehold on it, and you know he's going to find a way to get into this Gold Cup squad and have an impact in that too.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy we talk about it every time, and we've been stubbornly holding to our previous statement that we will not put Stuart Holden in this squad until we see what he can do in an extended role and not just a brief cameo. So I think Stuart Holden could really take this spot come Gold Cup time as well.
I agree, and you were the first one to bring this to the table. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Maurice Edu, because he was injured and missed this round of friendlies and qualifiers, and his playing time since Rangers was basically revamped completely and overhauled. Since he left, he's been struggling to really get consistent playing time.
Yeah, he went to Stoke and just disappeared.
Yeah, he went to Turkey.
Yep.
And it's good. And was he loaned from Stoke to Turkey?
I believe so. Yes, it was a loan.
So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can secure a place where he can play, and if he doesn't get called in for either the Bosnia friendly or because he's not playing in the Gold Cup, the two CONCACAF qualifiers coming up in September, his future could really be in doubt. I don't want to do anything with him now.
Yep.
Until we see what Stuart Holden can bring to the table, which is hopefully what Stuart Holden used to bring to the table, which was just all-around quality in the midfield. But, yeah, I'm replacing Davis with Williams. I've now created a Word document for this because my notebook is just a ton of cross-outs. So, right now I think Brad Davis in, Danny Williams out.
Okay.
Maurice Edu safe for now.
Safe for now. Any other guys that you could see? I know we talked last time about Herculez Gomez's spot being more in danger than it ever has before. Any other guys that you see stretching?
The Herculez Gomez thing is important he's on the preliminary Gold Cup roster.
Yep.
If he can come back from injury in time to play in that, we'll see where we go with him, because there are players that can take Herculez Gomez's spot as that, I guess, what would you say? He's like a combination of a second striker and a wing at this point?
Yeah.
And the one player that I think is really important to watch is Jack McInerney from Philadelphia Union, to see if he gets time in the Gold Cup and to see if he can really, make an impact.
Yeah, I think if he could come in and do something, that would be fantastic. Also, someone maybe even a Josh Gadd who's in as a midfielder, but he can play up as a higher up forward.
Josh Gadd scored yesterday.
He did. I saw that.
I'd like to thank the 12th Yank at Twitter for that piece of update. Yeah, there are players though, like Mix Diskerud will get his shot in the Gold Cup.
Yep.
Alejandro Bedoya still hanging around. It's Benny Feilhaber, who we had initially in the squad at one point, and then rather shockingly did not get called in for these last 5 games. We know what he is. He's my favorite bench player in the history of this team. So there are spots for the taking. There are spots on the defense. Clarence Goodson could be making his way off this team. Nobody's come in and seized it, but what do you think on the defense?
I think the defense is, as we've talked about at all levels right now, is definitely the thinnest position. Um, I think what Klinsmann's biggest hope from this from the Gold Cup squad is that maybe just maybe Oguchi Onyewu or Carlos Bocanegra can show him that there is something left in that tank. There's just enough to get them through the World Cup. And if they can come in and they can do that, I would not be disappointed. But I don't think
I agree.
I don't think there's anything. Once again, it's guys that we haven't seen in long enough that I don't think we can make a statement as to what they can or cannot bring.
Yeah, and Oguchi Onyewu, who had all the talent in the world, and then was really snake bitten by injuries, and he was getting some time for Sporting, not a lot, and then he got a little bit of playing time here and there from Malaga when he went on loan this year. He played 9 times this year. It's going to be interesting because I don't know if Oguchi Onyewu is a player that you can depend on anymore. And if he could show that he could still be an every game type of player and be the guy that was making 30 to 40 appearances for Standard Liège in Belgium before his ill-fated transfer to AC Milan, then it would bring a little bit of stability to a defense that is real. It's not even a work in progress. No. It's really hard to describe what it is. It's Omar Gonzalez who's going through his growing pains. It's Matt Beasler who's steady but not spectacular. It's Brad Evans who miraculously turned into this player who can deputize at right back. It's DeMarcus Beasley, who's a revelation as a left back, who really rededicated himself to being an important part of this team. It's really, really tough to figure out who's going to be on this defense. We have guys like Chandler, who hasn't played. We have Goodson, who sucked against Belgium. We have Castillo, who is basically not getting time. It's really hard to judge.
Mm-hmm. It's a little scary. It's a little scary, and if it all goes wrong come the World Cup, I think we'll be able to point to this moment as knowing why.
Yeah, and it went from I wasn't concerned about the defense in the 2010 World Cup. I was a little bit, but right now you're looking at this, and the World Cup is less than a year away, and it's no longer worrying about the hex. It's worrying about now the big picture heading into 2014.
Yep.
And this 23 for 2014 is going to start getting more and more time, I think, on this show as we continue to debate, because now it's all systems go for Brazil.
Yep. It's. I mean, we need something to officially clinch it, but we don't feel too bad looking ahead at this point.
No, and I'm never over confident being a New York Giants football fan and knowing they're going to collapse every November. But it's really it's coming. It's that World Cup qualification. There's a very good chance by the end of September we're the first CONCACAF team locked into a spot in Brazil. Mm-hmm. So lots of interesting stuff coming up. The Gold Cup, Under-20 World Cup kicking off in a day.
We got a lot to talk about on the blog and in our next podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed us being here extra times over the last couple of weeks to discuss this very important May-June camp and qualifiers. If you have anything else you want to talk about, shoot us a line either on the blog in the comment section, on YouTube, on Twitter. You can hit up the blog at US_Soccer Junkie. I'm at Popko DKG.
Or at SAF5109 if you have anything for me particularly. And thanks for joining us today. And enjoy the Under-20 World Cup. And we'll see you again. When do you think we'll be back on?
Probably 2 weeks. Probably post U20 World Cup. If we make it to the knockout rounds, maybe we'll give a little special appearance. All right. So check us out then. See you later.
And enjoy the start of summer, guys.